there, my name is Hazel and I'm back with a review on Atlus's newest release, Raidou Remastered, The Mystery of the Soulless Army. Damn, the name's too long. This game was announced on a Nintendo Direct on March 27th this year and it got a lot of people hyped since it's a remaster of one of the most popular Shin Megami Tensei sub-series that was buried under the PS2 era longer than I've been personally living. I was excited since I've always wanted to get into a real SMT game and not the fake SMT Persona franchise, and also the fact that it's a real-time action RPG instead of the usual turn-based system that SMT is well known for. Plus my all-time favorite games are PS2 games, so I might as well give this a shot, right? Well, thanks to my friend Jack Frost, I got my hands on Raidou. I've been playing it since it released on June 19th, though I got to finish it recently. And I was really surprised by many aspects of the game and how the remaster handled it, so I decided to talk about it here. So, is the remaster worth getting? And how does it compare to the original? Watch this video to know. Also, this video is gonna be spoiler free, so you can watch the review without any worries. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment with your personal thoughts on the game, and check me out on Twitter or donate to my coffee. That would mean a lot to me. Now on to the video. Okay, so Raidou Remastered is, well, a remaster of the original game with the somehow even longer name Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner Raidou vs. the Soulless Army, which was the third game from the Devil Summoner series, one of the first SMT spin-offs. After the massive success of Shin Megami Tensei If, Atlus started working on two separate spin-offs that focus on narrative. One was Persona 1 and the other one was the original Devil Summoner. While Persona was more focused on a high school setting and the problems around it, Devil Summoner was more inspired by detective fiction with relatively dark themes, especially works by the famous novelist Raymond Chandler. It was also the first SMT game to release on a 32-bit console, that being the Sega Saturn, and the first SMT game to feature actual 3D graphics. It was a big success in Japan to the point they made a full live TV adaptation for it, but neither was ever officially localized. But that wouldn't matter because 2 years later the sequel titled Devil Summoner Soul Hackers would release. Focusing on a more futuristic style to tell a story about the dangers of the internet while keeping the detective fiction and post-apocalyptic heart that the series is known for, it was praised for its great character writing and setting, and it eventually got a 3DS remaster that was localized in 2013, and a sequel way later in 2022. Going back to the 2000s, while the Soul Hackers side focused on a futuristic setting, Atlus thought of bringing Devil Summoner back since the last game released in 1997. During the development of SMT3 Nocturne, this time instead of the usual post-apocalyptic setting, it was conceptualized to be a modern-day detective story. The concept was there, but the development was held back by the pressure that the producer Kazuyuki was dealing with during the creation of the Maniacs edition of SMT3, the one featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series. So after SMT3 was received so positively, the development started on the first Raidou game after so many members of Atlus wanted so. It was originally going to be a small-scale, low-budget, portable title, but as the vision grew, the game grew further to main consoles. The game had a lot of changes compared to other SMT games, the biggest one being the replacement of the iconic turn-based system by a real-time action gameplay, while still maintaining some aspects of it, also adding the ability to have your demons follow you around when traversing the world, which was used for the detective aspect of the game that I'll discuss later. The game released in 2006 and received a lot of praise towards its interesting cast and great detective aspect, but got criticized for its rough combat mechanics, and then eventually got a sequel later on named Raidou Kuzunoha vs. King Abaddon. Fast forward to this year and Atlus announced a remaster for the game on a Nintendo Switch with added voice acting, overhauled gameplay, and updated visual style, and so much more to introduce new fans to the awesome sauce that is Raidou Kuzunoha. It was scheduled to release on June 19th, and so I played it on release and gathered my general thoughts around it. I've had around 20 hours to finish the game's main story, which is relatively short compared to Atlus' standards, and so here we are. And with all that said, let's review Raidou Remastered, Mystery of the Soulless Army. Right when you boot up the game, the Atlus logo appears, and I love how every time you start the game, there's a different sound yelling, "Go, Raidou! Raidou! Raidou!" from various characters. It's a neat little touch. Right after that, there's the opening, which I simply adore. It's CGI this time, and it manages to showcase what the game is going for, introducing the characters as always. I especially love the visual style here so much. The character designs and models are perfect recreations of the great artworks by the series artist Kazuma Kaneko, which I've never seen the franchise do this perfectly before. It oozes with vibe, and with the updated visuals that the remaster offers, it easily makes it one of, if not my favorite looking SMT games so far. Also, the opening theme, theme gives an amazing impression of the game's vision overall. Composed by SNT's legend Shoji Meguro, it's just a banger that I love listening to every time I boot up the game. Overall, the game's presentation is nice. It emphasizes on the cool aspect of the game, which I don't mind. It is easy to notice that stuff like the title screen or menus are built on top of the SMT3 Nocturne's remaster that was released in 2021, but it's different enough to fit Raidou's themes, and I personally like it. The remaster also adds a new easy difficulty for players who want to focus on the story. You start the game as the protagonist, whose name is not Raidou. It's his title, so don't be dumb like I almost was and put the name you personally want. Anyways, he's a young student who's been trained in the Kuzunoha village in devil summoning arts to become the next Raidou, a generational hero assigned with the mission to protect the capital. The intro focuses on showing how cool and different you are compared to other devil summoners, with being capable of carrying multiple demons in your will to protect the city, boosting that. After completing the trials, you start helping Narume, a lazy and otherwise really attractive looking detective. The game is set in the fictional period of Taisho 20 in Japan, which is relevant to its themes. I just really love how well presented it is from the start. It establishes the nature of the world in a smooth way that doesn't come off as confusing despite how weird it is, and also with the added voice acting that I'll talk about more later. It just gets things right. Visually, the remaster had to change a lot. The original game had a unique realistic style for backgrounds since they've all been pre-rendered due to technical limitations, which still had a unique taste to it at the time. The remaster changes that by redesigning the backgrounds fully in 3D this time, which is a lot of effort that I appreciate honestly. I think it looks more fitting this way. It did cause a lot of debate on Twitter, with a lot of people preferring the darker, more realistic look the game had, and as much as I get it, I ultimately think it depends on personal taste. Both fit the vision of the game, and I can't say that the remaster doesn't look pretty as hell in my opinion at least. Another thing I kept noticing is that not all the models are updated. Some are still very low poly, and it is most noticeable than ever considering the massive upgrade the main cast got. I honestly don't mind it. I think it's charming on its own, but it can be very odd to a lot of people, so I wanted to point that out. I also love the use of 3D models as talking portraits. It works extremely well and the models are so expressive and fun to look at. I do prefer it personally to the drawn portraits in Persona, but both are good on their own. And since we're on this, I wanted to criticize the UI. As much as I like how it looks, I do think it's a bit too slow. I'm thankful for the fast forward feature, but I do think there's too many fade ins and out between things that it annoys me a bit. It could have been done a lot smoother than it ended up being, and it is kinda tiring. I don't like to rely on the skipping feature, but I found myself doing so most of the time, and though it's not that big of a deal normally, it can be most noticeable during... Okay, the gameplay is easily the most relevant part of this remaster. The original Raidou was praised for a lot of things, but its combat was definitely not one of them. For Atlus's first hack and slash, it was quite disappointing. It was bad. Raidou only had a 1-2-3 combo and a spin attack, and you could only summon one demon for battle. You couldn't dodge, hell you couldn't even move camera. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it was very rough compared to its sequel Raidou 2. So the remaster had to take elements from the sequel and improve upon it, and that's where the remaster's biggest strength come in. The combat in boss fights got a massive overhaul with a much smoother and complex system that is just objectively better. You get to have two demons in battle, you have a light and a heavy attack that changes depending on what weapon you choose, and you got magic special attacks you can cast without demons. You can jump and dodge and do the Devil Bane counter attack when you manage to perfectly dodge something, and you have the mandatory special flashy move that eradicates the whole arena. Also the ability to hide your demons so they're not damaged by strong and avoidable attacks, and so much more. You can also fuse demons into new ones here, and it's much easier since you can actually search for fusion possibilities and inherit past skills from fused demons. Shout out to Black Frost, it probably is my favorite demon to use in the game, and also Monshuvu for how adorable she is. Just look at her! For real though, I could list the improvements on the battle system forever, but the video would be an hour long by then, so I'll sum it all up. I find this combat system very enjoyable. The highlight for me is the boss fights that feel like an Undertale battle in a way. Being in a square arena and dodging attacks just feels so good and has a bit of challenge to it. Though it did take me a significant amount of time to process everything about it, especially hiding my demons, cause why the heck do they keep dying on this attack every time. Yeah, it does take some time to get used to. It isn't perfect. The game lets you swap between equipped and unequipped abilities mid-battle, which isn't a thing I've seen an RPG do before, and that is really nice. Though it could have been done a lot better. There is a lot of navigation you need to do to get to what you want, and I swear there was a better way to achieve that. It doesn't break the pace that much, but it does annoy me. How would I fix that? I think that getting rid of menu transitions and animations would have helped, or at least making them faster and smoother, but aside of that, it's good. Another aspect of the game is the detective part, which is honestly the most unique part of the game. I love traversing around the world, interrogating people about what's going on, and it complements the story presentation very well. Being able to use your demons outside of battle to help you is brilliant. For example, someone is too weak-spirited to talk, so you ignite their souls to get information, or angry people that you can cool down, and so much more. Every demon got a certain ability that helps with detective work. I personally advise having a Gothio on always because of his inspect ability that's so useful in game. I do appreciate that the remaster added a lot of quality of life stuff like quick travel or swapping your demons automatically, depends on what action you need to use, or the ability to quick save at any time. Though the game expects you to remember all these Japanese areas by name, which admittedly is a bit overwhelming and got me easily lost in several areas. Just wanted to point that out. Also, one thing I personally disliked was that investigating or solving puzzles, especially early on, can be a bit irritating with how slow it is. It does improve later, but it can be boring early on, to be honest, because of how slow it is when using your demons, who are so slow it personally hurts. Overall, the remaster improved upon a lot of aspects of the original and made it fresh and extremely fun, but you can still notice that it is, after all, a remaster of a PS2 game because of the dated bits and details that do feel like they belong on older standards. It's not necessarily bad, but it can be a bit jarring, but it's mostly overshadowed by the fun parts, which oh boy the game does deliver on. And speaking of good deliveries, let's talk about the... This is easily one of my favorite parts about the game. Raidou Remastered has an excellent detective story that's laid out in the form of episodes. Not chapters, episodes. The reason that's important is that it presents itself like a TV show where every episode has a focused plot on its own that leads to a bigger mystery unfolding in the last 2 episodes. It's one of the most unique ways of storytelling I've seen a JRPG do. The only downside here is that just like any normal TV show, there are weak and strong episodes, and I can't lie when I said that there's at least 2 episodes that felt like a necessary filler to me, though I guess that's my fault for expecting a linear story to begin with. Still, it does pick itself up the more you play it, cause some episodes are some real hitters. Shout out to episode 11. I also think the game has an excellent cast of characters. The writing for them is so engaging and flows well with their designs. My favorite one personally is Rasputin. He's genuinely one of the funniest Megaton characters to me. I don't know, but the way his dialogue is laid out is so hilarious. Though my favorite part about the game as a whole is that it gives every demon their own personality, and it could result in either the funniest, saddest, or most wholesome dialogues ever. When you fuse demons, for example, they have to say goodbye. Some of them leave letters of gratitude, love confessions, etc. And the ones in the Dark Realm have really unique personalities, which is most noticeable with boss fights. What boosts all that is the added voice acting. The original didn't have voice acting, and the stuff added in this remaster is surprisingly some of the best vocal performances in any game I've ever played. It's simply excellent. There's a wide range of voice deliveries and they're just fantastic. I can't say there was a VA I disliked, though shout out to whoever is on the demon's voice direction. All those performances are brilliant and add a lot more personality to every demon. Shout out to whoever voiced Ippondataro, that was exceptionally great.
Omega! I only know about walls! I'm stupid! I love walls!
So yeah, good on Atlus West for cooking with the English dub again. I also forgot to mention that the game has a lot of great visual storytelling, showing how Japan is struggling with industrialism and the war between traditional and modern, which some episodes focus on, is an interesting theme that the game does a great job at explaining. Overall, while the writing isn't anything mind-blowing, it definitely gets what it tries to achieve so wonderfully. The characters are fun, the voice acting is straight up peak, and the plot is very fun to say the least. Though without spoiling anything, I did feel like the plot of this game did more to prepare for a probably much bigger and complex story in the sequel than to wrap up a satisfying standalone narrative, but that's just me. Another thing that the game does amazingly is the soundtrack, taken straight from the OG with a few notable remixes. It matches the detective mystery vibe of the game perfectly. It matches the era, the hype, and it has a fitting song for everything. I can't name a song I'm disappointed by, but I can name a few highlights. For me, I adore the town themes. Tsukudu Show is an example that I love. Its jazz influence with orchestral elements is different from any other tracks in the franchise, and it simply sounds beautiful. Aside of the world themes, the game has the signature hype tracks you'd expect from a Megaton game. Hell, they're even labeled Megaton sounds. And with those, the game has an incredible battle theme that I can never get tired of. Specifically this section, like, dude! There's a lot to show here, but the video would be longer than it already is. It's genuinely a beautiful soundtrack from beginning to end. My absolute favorite from it has to be the song Go Raidou that plays during the climax of every episode. It is easily one of my favorite tracks out of Atlus's massive library. It's just brilliant. So to sum it up, this game's OST is genuinely brilliant. It increased my enjoyment of the game a lot, and it's definitely on my list of faves. It's unique and I simply can't get enough of it, but to be fair, so is the entire sound design of this game. It's just fantastic and I understand why it grew to be a fan favorite over the years. Raidou Remastered, The Mystery of the Soulless Army is an incredible love letter to the original game. It raised a new high bar for Atlus after the embarrassing history they had with Nocturne and Persona 3 Portable's HD remasters. To be honest, I struggle to even call this one a remaster. It feels more so like a remake to me. It has a lot of visual changes, a gameplay rebuilt from the ground up, and enough quality of life improvements, and that's just amazing. I hope Atlus continues with this level of ambition towards its PS2 catalog, especially with the hopefully next digital Devil Saga remaster. Please Atlus, I'm so desperate. It's an 8 out of 10. I would definitely recommend this game if you're a fan of JRPG as a genre or if you're interested enough. It's a good, fun classic although flawed. And I can't wait to personally hop on Raidou 2. I heard that game's epic as hell, so I might as well make a video on that when I'm ready. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've been trying to work more consistently on my YouTube channel, and believe it or not, I am trying my best. I'll try to get as much videos out there as I could, but again, high school dread is well, in any case, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, or disagree or whatever in the comments. Check out my social media, they're in the description below. This was Hazel from the Hazelnut, and I'll see you all next time.